From the time I was a child, I was captivated by the beauty of animation, most profoundly by the worlds created by Studio Ghibli. There was always something different about them. It wasn't just fantasy, it was a kind of magic, quiet and otherworldly, that Hayao Miyazaki seemed to breathe into every story, every brushstroke, every frame. His worlds didn't just live on the screen, they reached beyond it, drawing me in, making me long to step inside and belong there. Part of that came from the art itself. Ghibli films never looked like the anime I saw elsewhere, where so much animation leaned on sharp lines, speed, and exaggeration. Ghibli lingered in softness. The brushwork felt painterly, almost timeless. Backgrounds often looked like watercolor landscapes, infused with light and shadow in a way that felt alive. The skies stretched endlessly, the forests breathed, the towns glowed with a kind of quiet nostalgia. Even the food, those steaming bowls of ramen, those neatly folded bento boxes, seemed to carry warmth and care, painted with as much attention as the characters themselves. What always amazed me was the way Ghibli never rushed. The stories flow at their own pace, unhurried, never forced. The action isn't loud or flashy. It unfolds gently, naturally, like life itself. There is a beauty in the stillness, a kind of reverence for small details, the way the wind moves through the grass, the shifting clouds in the sky, the creak of wooden floors. Often there isn't even music, just the soft, ambient sounds of the world breathing. I think about that scene in Princess Mononoke, when Ashitaka dismounts Yakul and carefully prepares his bow. He doesn't just shoot, he takes his time. That pause, that attention to movement makes him feel real, human. These little choices, so subtle, so intentional, are what make the characters relatable, what make the worlds come alive. They remind us that real life is not made of constant spectacle, but of small gestures, pauses, breaths in between. The first time I experienced Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, The Wind Rises, and My Neighbor Totoro, I was overwhelmed. These weren't just films, they were living, breathing worlds. The architecture, the landscapes, the music, the characters, all of it carried truth. Even though they were drawn, the characters had a depth of humanity I rarely saw elsewhere. They were fragile, flawed, filled with longing, yet achingly real. I will never forget encountering No-Face for the first time. At first he was haunting, ambiguous, maybe even frightening, but slowly his layers revealed something more vulnerable: loneliness, a need to belong. Or Haku, whose quiet devotion felt selfless and kind. Or Jiro, with his relentless pursuit of dreams, his love and his sorrow, a reminder of both resilience and the weight of sacrifice. Each figure, each story, left something behind, a mark that lingers long after the credits fade. And of course there was Miyazaki himself. You can feel how much he loved his craft, how much of himself he poured into every story. He gave us strong female leads, brave children, honest love, and so much more. Loss, rebirth, hope, pain. His stories remind us that life is not just about grand victories, but about finding beauty in fleeting, quiet moments. They remind us that courage doesn't always roar. It can also be as simple as kindness, patience, or holding on to a dream. Miyazaki's own story feels almost like one of his films, both ordinary and extraordinary at once. Born in 1941 during the war, he grew up in a Japan marked by both destruction and rebuilding. His father worked in the family's aeronautics business, which perhaps planted the seed of flight that appears again and again in his work. Airships, gliders, flying castles, endless skies. As a child, Miyazaki loved to draw, though he once doubted he could ever become an animator because he struggled with drawing people. Yet that same boy grew into the man who would create some of the most human, most tender characters in all of cinema. His career began at Toei Animation, where he worked as an in-between artist before moving into larger roles. He worked on Heidi, Girl of the Alps, and Future Boy Conan, before co-founding Studio Ghibli in 1985 with Isao Takahata. From there, his imagination blossomed into the worlds we know: the forests of Totoro, the war-torn lands of Mononoke, the magical bathhouse of Spirited Away, the skies of Porco Rosso, and the restless wandering castle of Howl. He gave us stories that touched not only Japan, but the whole world. Spirited Away, in particular, became a phenomenon. It won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2003, introducing countless people to Ghibli for the first time. But what always strikes me is that despite such recognition, Miyazaki never seemed interested in glory. He was known as demanding, even stubborn, but that was because he wanted every scene, every frame, to have honesty. He often spoke about his fear for the future of humanity and the environment, and you can see that in his films: the balance between humans and nature, the cost of greed, the fragility of innocence. His stories were never just entertainment. They were a plea for us to pay attention to the world, to each other, to the small miracles we take for granted. What strikes me most is how universal these films are. They transcend culture, language, and time. They reach children and adults alike, each finding something different, something deeply personal in the same story. They remind us what it means to be human, to struggle, to dream, to lose, to love, and to keep moving forward. And in that way, they are timeless. Unlike Pixar, Disney, or DreamWorks, whose films often center on fast-paced narratives, big set pieces, and tightly structured plots, Studio Ghibli takes a very different path. Where those studios frequently build stories around clear conflicts, punchy humor, or action-driven arcs, Ghibli is willing to slow down and dwell in the ordinary. A character might stop to watch clouds drift by, cook a meal, or walk through a quiet forest, and those moments are treated with as much care as any grand climax. Pixar and Disney often strive for polish and spectacle, while Ghibli's hand-drawn textures and painterly backdrops feel organic, imperfect in a way that makes them deeply human. The difference is not about quality, but about philosophy. While Western studios tend to push toward resolution and momentum, Ghibli invites us into reflection, stillness, and the beauty of simply existing in a world. Though Hayao Miyazaki has passed, the spirit of Studio Ghibli continues. His son, Goro Miyazaki, and the artists who carry his vision keep shaping new worlds that honor the past while daring to look toward the future. The magic remains, glowing quietly, waiting for us to step into it again and again. And each time I return to a film, whether it's watching Chihiro's Journey for the 10th time, or hearing the wind rush past Totoro's bus stop for the 100th, I find something new, something I had not noticed before. That is the mark of true art. It grows with you, it deepens as you change. In my own way, I strive to honor what Miyazaki gave us, the gift of wonder, the courage to dream, and the reminder that even in silence, even in the gentlest breeze, there is beauty worth cherishing. His films taught me that the world is alive if only I stop long enough to notice, that the ordinary is extraordinary if seen with the right eyes, that kindness, love, and hope, though fragile, are the strongest forces we have. And for that, for the worlds that raised me, for the stories that shaped me, I will always be grateful.